Willis in his Basic Instincts.
There is something seriously wrong with this film.
Like, Willis is unstoppable. There's a scene where Madonna pours hot wax on Willem Dafoe's genitals during sex.
Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic, a discussion between a professional film critic and lecturer and me, his wife of 20 years, who just likes to watch movies for fun. I'm your co-host, Julia.
This is Barry the Film Critic. Hello, everyone.
And tonight we decided to watch the most bonkers erotic thriller I've ever seen.
Have you seen a lot of erotic thrillers?
I mean, I feel like I've seen a fair amount. You know, like we just did Basic Instinct.
Yes.
We watched, what's that highway?
Lost Highway.
Lost Highway.
Okay.
Which is crazy.
Indeed.
Yeah. Fatal Attraction.
Yep, Fatal Attraction. Yeah, it's interesting to talk about the trajectory of these movies because, in a sense, Basic Instinct, however you feel about that movie, is sort of the peak, and then the downward slope really starts around this time. So I did a class years ago at UCCS. It was a modern film noir class, and basically it was from Chinatown until some of the early aughts. It was from Chinatown to The Black Dahlia, which came out in 2006. So we're just talking about like not only what a lot of these film noirs have in common, the unreliable protagonist, a movie where the main character cannot be trusted. So film noirs, they're defined by a lot of things, one of which is to have an unreliable protagonist, a main character that you cannot count on to do the right thing. Often they are alcoholics, often they are psychologists or detectives. You've got the femme fatale, you've got the main character who's typically played by a woman. The character is defined by her ability to use sex as a weapon and not as a recreation. And the femme fatale almost always is the one who knows all the angles. She's the smartest one. She's the most empowered one. She is the one who is the most sexually aggressive. But at the same time, she's also the one that, when all is said and done, she's the one who's in control of the narrative, not the unreliable protagonist. These movies are often in black and white, but when they're not in black and white, they still have a color palette suggesting black and white. There's a lot of shadow. There's a lot of characters smoking. There's a lot of rain. There's a lot of ceiling fans. And when there are ceiling fans, this is interesting. Like a lot of these movies do have camera angles from the point of view of a ceiling fan. It's like the eye of God judging and looking in a questionable viewpoint, a vantage point of the sin that's going on. These movies often end in a way that's very ironic as opposed to fair. They don't end in ways that suggest love conquers all, as opposed to like, no, like this is the wages of sin is death. Yeah, like they typically end in ways that are tragic for some characters, triumphant for others. The best, in some cases, the characters end up escaping at the end of the film, and sometimes they just end up, kind of inciting their own doom because of who they are. So they're very character and very morally driven. And some of these movies are very good, like Body Heat. And then you get to Color of Night. Color of Night is a victim of Basic Instinct, because the thing about Basic Instinct was that before it came out, and I mean before they shot a frame of it, it was controversial because people got a hold of the screenplay. They said, okay, this movie is about like psychopathic gay people killing people in San Francisco with ice picks. Oh my God.
Basic Instinct.
Yeah. And Basic Instinct was an expensive movie. Michael Douglas was starring in it. The director of RoboCop was doing it. Like, and Sharon Stone had taken on a role that everybody had turned down. It was famous, like the list of actresses who were offered Basic Instinct. It's like a phone book. It's a very long list. And instead of the movie flopping like so many people thought, Basic Instinct became a phenomenon. It was one of these movies, it was in the number one spot for months. I mean, it was just a huge, huge hit. And every subsequent sexual or sex-driven detective thriller that came afterwards, they all wanted to be Basic Instinct. They all wanted to top Basic Instinct. They all worked very hard to do it, and no one's ever done it. And it's weird, too, because Basic Instinct, its most famous scene is a woman flashing the camera, and it's like, and that's, and it's, by the way, it's not the most shocking part of the movie.
No.
And it's funny, like in looking at it now, that moment, it's like, it's actually a really quick, brief, kind of quick shock. It's not the goriest scene in the movie. It's not the most sexually explicit, but that was enough to like, oh. So what happens is, you have movies like Body of Evidence the following year with Madonna and Willem Dafoe. There's a scene where Madonna pours hot wax on Willem Dafoe's genitals during sex. Like, that's how far that movie had to go. Like, we gotta be dirtier. We gotta top Basic Instinct. There was a movie called Jade that came out in 1995 where a character collects pubic hair. Pubic hair is actually a piece of evidence. Like, that's how far these movies went.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
You know, oh no, I got an hour of this. So my obvious point is that
If you're still with us.
There's going to be a test, so you pay attention. So Color of Night is obviously like, look, okay, we got to compete with, this is Bruce Willis in his Basic Instinct. So it's got to be bloodier, it's got to be hotter, it's got to be, everything is just elevated. And the movie, this is, I think, I might be wrong about this, but I think this is the first time we've ever spoken about a film that has the honor of being deemed a Golden Raspberry Award winner for Worst Picture of the Year. This is a winner. And one of the things I love talking about Bruce Willis, in addition to his versatility, I think he's very versatile and very underrated. This is a career. I mean, talk about John McClane. This is a career that could not be killed. Because he had a movie called North, this infamous Rob Reiner movie, and Basic Instinct, not Basic Instinct. He had North and Color of Night the same summer.
This movie should have killed his career.
It should have. There's a few movies that should have done it, like you know, Hudson Hawk tried really hard the year before, Bonfire of the Vanities. Like he's been in some big bombs. But the thing is, right after Color of Night, he had this little movie called Pulp Fiction that came out. And then a couple months after that, he had this movie called Nobody's Fool, where he is exquisite acting alongside Paul Newman. And the following year was 12 Monkeys and Die Hard 3. So, like, Willis is unstoppable because he works so much that even the flops couldn't, like, hold this guy down. I just love it. I love that this movie became an afterthought instead of being the career killer that it would be for any mere mortal movie star.
Okay, so Barry told me, hey, this movie is on streaming, and if you want to watch it, you know, it's bonkers, and, you know, he's telling me a little bit about it. And so I think you were gone one day, and I'm like, I'm just gonna watch a little bit and see if this is even anything. You guys, from the first scene, I was like, there is something seriously wrong with this film, and I have to know what happened.
Yeah, you can't turn away from it. I mean, a car wreck is the obvious analogy, but this is more entertaining than a car wreck. It's so. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into it because we're not going to be able to touch every plot point because it is so crazy.
When we watch the uncut version of it, it's the only version that's weirdly available in this country. You've got to really dig to find, because when this movie was released in the summer of '94, it was 2 hours. And then as soon as it hit a video cassette and as soon as it hit DVD years later, it's only the 2 hour, 20 minute cut that's available in this country. So if you even want to see the original trimmed down version of Color of Night, good luck finding it. It's never, to my knowledge, it's never been released.
Well, okay. So you're going to have to watch the unrated version, which, okay, if you even want to watch the movie, go watch it and then come back because spoiler city here. Okay. All right, Bruce Willis. He plays Bill Kappa, a psychoanalyst in New York City. And actually, our opening scene is with one of his
I remember this. This
clients.
is when he and his wife are celebrating his anniversary and the award that he just won. And then they're celebrating, and Donnie Wahlberg in his underwear
That's a
comes
different
in
movie.
and shoots him. And guys, you're not going to believe this, but there's a twist.
Okay.
This is a prequel to The Sixth Sense, by the way.
Honestly, this could be a prequel.
Could be. It explains why he's so haunted by the time we get to The Sixth Sense. He's like, you're not going to believe this. Like, Donnie Wahlberg in his underwear in his apartment's like, that's like the least weird thing that's happened to me in the last 10 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this woman, Michelle, who's really disturbed. And so you kind of see her in her apartment.
How disturbed, though? Like, how does the movie establish how disturbed she is?
She basically gives, like, fellatio to a gun.
Oh, wow. You really jumped to that. I thought you were going to talk about the lipstick. She does that actorly thing. It's like, I'm going to put lipstick on crazy, but wow, you...
Well, she puts it on her teeth, but that's not even the craziest part. She's going to shoot herself, and then she, like, gets weirdly turned on by it, and at this point I was
It's
like,
it's the first sex scene in the movie between her and the gun.
well, I was like, I'm it's less than 5 minutes in, and I'm like, I am uncomfortable.
But again, this movie is like, look, Basic Instinct opened up with that scene where the guy gets stabbed to death with an ice pick. We gotta take it to the next level because it's a Disney film. Yes, folks, a Disney movie.
Okay, so Michelle goes to see her psychoanalyst, Bruce Willis, whose name is Bill, and he's like not very good at his job.
No, he's terrible at it. Terrible.
Yeah. And so at one point he's like, look in the mirror, what do you see? So it's this shot of her looking in the mirror and he's behind her and she's like, I see you, I see me, but I see the outside. And you know what? I think I'd rather be out there. Runs, jumps out the window. What, 20 stories?
The movie makes sure, they have so many cuts of it. And it's spectacular. Whether it's a stunt person or just a
doll,
dummy
a dummy
they threw out the whatever it is. We see this thing. It feels like real time, and then it's like they added floors to this building. It's a long dive down, and by the time it finally hits the ground, this is the bit with the glass, right?
Yeah.
This is nuts, folks. Look, so. Let me say really, really quickly. So Richard Rush directed this. Richard Rush did a movie in 1980 called The Stuntman. The Stuntman is like that movie that came out, The Fall Guy, except not a comedy. The Stuntman's great. It's better than The Fall Guy. So he had not made a movie for years. He got pulled into doing this movie. Apparently he was very old when he made this film, or older rather, a little out of practice as a filmmaker. This movie from start to finish feels like it doesn't feel. It wants to be Hitchcock, but it's kind of like Paul Verhoeven doing Brian De Palma doing Alfred Hitchcock. It's like it's trying too hard to be like that. So the body hits the ground after like 14 different edits of this thing. I don't know if I'm exaggerating.
Like, we know she has killed herself.
But it's spectacular. She hits the ground, and then you have an angle which is clearly that you have the actress on a piece of plexiglass. And then
the
somebody
camera's looking up
at the plexiglass, and they've got somebody off camera putting this trail of blood, kind of forming around her head. So it's like we're looking at the world from the point of view of the sidewalk. But the way the plexiglass has been placed, it's obviously elevated off the ground. It's a little too high. It's meant to be like this real Hitchcockian bit, and it's so sloppy and amateurish. It's like, this is the kind of like trying too hard, stylish move that a lot of like young filmmakers who are trying to like call attention to themselves would do. It's so embarrassing. Like, they've got like this amazing
That's
stunt.
the embarrassing part.
Well, I was embarrassed because I'm like, no, man, like, that looks really bad. And obviously today you do this with a computer, wouldn't be an issue. And look, I gotta hand it to him. I was like, look, we got plexiglass. This is gonna be amazing, and it flops.
So Bill is looking down at his patient's body, and then he sees all the blood around her, and then all of a sudden the blood turns gray. And what happens? Bill suffers from stress-induced color blindness, but don't worry, the only color he can't see is red.
That's right. Now, before we make fun of this, is this a real thing? Because it sounds like something that a movie made up.
Yeah.
Because
like stress-induced color blindness for one color.
I am not insensitive to the fact that obviously movies portray things that in real life are very real and very painful. I swear to you. But like when Split came out and people freaked out, like, that's so insensitive. There are people with dissociative personality. Split is a freaking fantasy. It is not to be taken seriously. Anybody suffering from dissociative personality disorder, or if they even call it that, that is completely separate from that fantasy. And I like that movie, by the way, but like, you can't take that seriously.
Okay.
This in this case,
sillier.
Can we make fun of this?
Yes.
Or is this
yes.
Okay? Good.
Yeah. One color of color blindness.
I don't know. Like, I've never heard of anybody so stressed out. Like, I watch those car crashes into each other. Now I just see pink wherever I go. Just the color pink. Everything's pink.
The two cars that crashed, like one was yellow and one was orange.
It was two Mary Kay cars, so now I just see pink wherever I go.
Now I don't see those colors. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's a contrivance because it's like, okay, either it's going to be a way, either it's going to be to his advantage or it's going to be this thing like, the character, we're going to know that this character is healed when he could actually see things in the real color.
Yeah.
But right now he can only see the world in the color of the night.
But,
yeah.
But it's only red that is shades of gray.
Right. And the whole movie, by the way, it would have been interesting if the whole movie...
50 Shades of Grey, because, like...
How many shades? It would have been interesting if the whole film was in black and white, right? Wouldn't that have been interesting? Yeah, like, actually make the movie about this so we see it through his eyes. Like, that would have been like, oh, man, like, he doesn't know if the apple is ripe. I mean, think about, like, all the, like comical things...
That's too deep for this film.
Anything is too deep for this stupid movie. Okay.
Okay. Let's keep going, because...
a lot of plot.
Yeah, Bill then decides, I mean, he's like, I can't. Obviously, I'm a terrible psychoanalyst.
So shaken up by this.
I know. So he goes to LA to see his friend.
Played by Scott Bakula.
Dr. Bob. And him, so Bill and Bob, they went to school together. They went to college together, and they both became psychologists.
Yep.
And so... Bob is very successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the car. He's got the nice house. I mean, he's got everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so when Bill sees him, they go out together. But then he also joins Bob for his Monday night therapy group.
And I want to say really quickly, as they're driving over there, I mean, the movie is full of unintentionally hilarious moments. I don't know if it's the editing. I mean, there's a lot of things. We'll get into that. But one of the things that made me laugh very hard, very early in the movie, is there's a line, because they're driving, Bruce Willis is being cool, and they're in this hoodless car, and, Bakula's driving. Yeah, convertible, sorry. That's what they call them these days. So Bakula's driving, and he goes to Bruce Willis, he's like... you hungry? You want to get something? He's like, Bruce Willis like, no. And he goes to Bruce Willis like, you want to get laid? And I realize it's not an invitation, because I'm like, oh man, this is like the best Quantum Leap moonlighting crossover ever now. Wasn't that? But still, like, the fact that the editing is a little too long, it really does seem like
but his friend
it's
is
a request.
Hitting on him.
Yeah, that he's a request. So... I was actually confused for a second, like, oh, I don't remember this movie being that interesting. So, But yeah, the whole movie, like, even from the beginning, the lines are seedy. It's a sleazy freaking movie. It is.
Okay, so Bob is like, come to my Monday night therapy group because I want your opinion on my clients. Now, you guys, I'm going to tell you all the people that are in this group because it is crucial to the plot, but just... bear with me. Okay, so these are the group members. Clark, who suffers from obsessive compulsive disorder.
And this is Brad Dourif?
Yes. Yeah,
Brad Dourif, who you all know from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and my favorite, The Exorcist 3. Excellent actor.
So he's a lawyer, and he's always like counting things, and Yeah. Then we have Sandra, played by Leslie Ann Warren.
You remember from Clue, the movie.
She's a nymphomaniac and a kleptomaniac with a habit of marrying wealthy older men who die.
Yes, and they picked the right actress for this because the character's not subtle, and Miss Warren is fearless in this role. Yeah.
So we have Buck, a salty ex-cop who suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder after surviving the brutal murder of his wife and daughter.
The terrific Lance Henriksen, who I've met, and I gotta say, he's the only one who dials it down for this movie.
Yeah, he really is.
Who gives an internal performance. Everybody else is acting like it's
everyone else.
Like it's community theater, and and like they're acting for everybody who's in like row Q through Z. Like these are big performances.
Okay, we have Casey, a sadomasochist.
So it's all the normal people.
Whose wealthy, abusive father subsidizes his artistic lifestyle on condition that he remain in therapy.
This is Kevin J. O'Connor, one of the villains from Lord of Illusions, one of my favorite Clive Barker films.
And then we have Richie Dexter, a 16-year-old boy with a stutter and a gender identity problem.
We'll talk about who that character is played by later.
Who also has had run-ins with the law and drugs.
Yes.
Okay. any if any of you have ever been to therapy or even group therapy, you would know that putting all of these people in a group together is crazy.
I mean, let's remember that Jack Nicholson once did a movie called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where he was also, in group therapy. And even with those colorful cast of characters, there was never a sense that a murder could break out at any minute. It's so comical.
Yeah.
This movie never, from start to finish, almost on a scene-to-scene basis, this movie does not know how funny it is. It doesn't.
It's unintentionally hilarious.
But it could have been a comedy. They could the music is so cheesy. There's such an emphasis on saxophone. They could have made this like the Naked Gun of Basic Instinct. You know what I mean? Like this movie could have been a full-on comedy.
All of these scenes with this group definitely could have been.
Most of the movie, but yeah.
Okay, so we kind of get introduced to all of these characters, and I'm just like, what is happening?
Everybody is like at an 11 from start to finish.
Except for big. Bob and Bill.
Yes.
I mean, they're really like, they're at like ones, like listening and really trying to like take it seriously and like help these people. I'm like, there's no way this Monday night therapy group is helping anybody, but okay. So after the first session, Bob drives Bill back to his Malibu home in his Mercedes. And this is where, he's like, tell me what you think about my patients. And so, he's trying to give him like his diagnosis after one crazy session. I don't even think
Didn't show him a file or anything. No, just like, hey, what do you think of these nuts? What do you think?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he singles out Richie as a genuine nutcase, the 16-year-old with the gender identity problems, but doesn't really detect any murderous vibes at this point.
And really quickly, for one thing, it becomes a total contrivance, which we'll talk about, but the way the movie deals with a character struggling with, transforming in gender, just to be very clear, this movie is stupid about this. This is I know, but
I know what you're saying. But when we find out who this person really is, you realize it is all a farce.
It's a total farce. Yeah, this isn't like because this is '94. Of course, things are different than they are now. There's different. This is not very evolved in the way that we would talk about this today. But like something like even The Crying Game, for all the things about The Crying Game, it's like, it's a little naive today, or a little dated. The Crying Game is still a profound and complex film, and I stand by that. I love The Crying Game. This is not The Crying Game. This movie is
no. If anything, whenever the camera like went over to Richie's face, I was like, just go to a different character.
It's okay, they're clearly... Well, and I'll tell you really quickly without spoiling, because we'll get to it, but like, unlike The Sixth Sense, I saw the twist coming the second.
You did?
Yes. I'm like...
I didn't...
That character looks a little familiar. Like, looks like a face I saw in the movie's poster that wasn't Bruce Willis, but okay. No.
Okay.
I thought, like, I hope that's not what it is, because that would be so crazy, but yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about our first murder scene, which I guess...
Yes.
Where...
that doesn't involve gravity being the killer.
Yeah. Okay. So Bob is stabbed to death by a masked figure.
Yeah.
And you guys, it is probably one of the most unintentionally hilarious murder scenes I've ever seen. I mean, just...
Is it because it's Scott Bakula or...
No, I think it's because a lot of it's
just
in silhouette.
Yeah,
and it's I think they say he gets stabbed like 30, 35 times or something.
I lost count. Like, it's so excessive. It's crazy.
So you don't really... It's not really gory. It's just...
It's like the free fall that opens the movie. Like, everything is so overdone.
Over the top.
Like to agree. Like, I agree with you. You can't quite take it seriously.
Now that Bob is dead.
Yeah.
So now the detective is talking to Bruce Willis's character, and he's trying to kind of get the lay of the land, and he's like, you met the Monday night group. Why don't you tell them that their therapist is dead? And he's like, okay, I guess I can do that. So the detective is played by
Ruben Blades. Wonderful musician, terrific character actor. He did a film with Jack Nicholson 4 years earlier called The Two Jakes, and I love him in that movie. He's also in Predator 2. He disorganized crime. Even when the movies were bad, Ruben Blades is pretty fantastic. I've always loved him. He's really over the top here. Like everybody else, it's such a big performance. It's funny because Willis can go big, but the fact that he is dialing
really
it down so
doesn't.
much, I mean, it just makes everybody else around him look like the first day in acting school, you know. And it's not, and I don't know, some of these performances, it's not that they're bad, it's just that everybody is so big. You know, it's just like, it's like they, I mean, did everybody think, okay, I'm going to win? No, I'm going to win the Oscar for this. I'll show you. I'll steal this scene.
So the detective keeps saying, like, tell me what you know, anything. And Bruce Willis is like, I don't have anything for you. He's like, do you want me to solve your friend's murder or what? So you kind of are like, I don't know, for a while I thought maybe Bruce Willis was the killer because he was jealous of his friend's success. And then he goes to the Monday night group, he tells them, and then he basically takes over the group.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, we paused the movie at a point to take a quick break, and you told me, like, I think Bruce Willis did. I'm like, wow, that's what a smart film would do.
Yeah.
That's what a really clever movie would establish. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a great idea.
I'm like, he left his life in New York. He came to L.A.
He didn't seem to really be trying to keep that patient from jumping out of a window. Not really.
No.
Yeah. No, like it does. I agree with you. And it fits with film noir, the fact that this character is, instigating all this chaos and moral rot, whether he wants to or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like it.
He stays in his house. He drives his car. The next day, he's driving and he gets rear-ended by a woman named Rose.
Played by Jane March. And I gotta say, because I've only seen this movie. I didn't see it in theaters. It was in theaters for like 5 minutes and I missed it. I kind of regret that. But I suspect...
There's no way I'd want to see this movie like this in a theater with other people.
If this movie comes like a midnight screening, I'm so there. In fact, I might have to arrange that. So anyway, I suspect that probably in the theatrical cut, which was only 2 hours, I bet we got to this part a lot quicker. Because, like, a lot of the other stuff, especially the Ruben Blades scenes, those scenes go on quite a long time. So I bet she entered the movie a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Because, she's second billed, and her character is supposedly one of the most important here.
So she's like, oh, I have no driver's license or driver's insurance.
And, I like your impression of her. It's very sultry.
She's like, well, what is she's like 20 years younger than Bruce Willis?
At least. Yeah. I think does seem a little too young for Willis.
Yeah. So
not helping matters is that he was married to Demi Moore at this time. It's like, couldn't Demi have done this movie?
Yeah. Well, I guess so. But she
would have been great.
So he gives her his phone number and address. So she has the control here. Because, he's like, well, I'll get like a quote, and then you can pay cash for it, whatever. It's like, this is not happening.
It's a weird meet cute, by the way.
Nobody cares about this car anymore.
No.
So, then it's like the detective and Bill are kind of going back and forth, trying to like figure out who the killer is. A couple of days later, Rose comes to the house.
Is this before or after the snake?
I think this is before.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is when he takes her to dinner for the first time.
Okay.
And they they kind of like make out in front of the restaurant.
Yes.
And you kind of think like it gets really racy. Like you think that he's just gonna like have sex with her like right there in front of everyone. And
because it's Color of Night, you go like, well, that's probably what's going to happen in this movie. The movie shows some surprising, shocking restraint that they don't.
Yeah, and she leaves. She takes a taxi, and is like.
But before she leaves,
right? She mentions his.
Well, they kind of go off into like I don't know, like a potted plant, like someplace that's
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They were making out, and I thought they were
in
going
the
to
restaurant.
Do it right
yeah,
there.
right. Yeah, so it's outside, and she makes reference to his erection.
Right, that's what I just said.
Well, you use the sound effect. I'm not afraid to use the word erection.
Well, I'm trying not to get flagged on YouTube.
You don't want to put a flag on the erection?
Okay. So she leaves, and then he's kind of like, oh, I hope I see her again,
Oh boy, does he ever.
So there's a whole thing about like finding out more about Richie and his psychological profile.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're dealing with all the patients, and then the next morning, Bill goes jogging, and that's when there's a live rattlesnake
in his mailbox. Yeah, which
Yeah.
definitely takes some creativity to place there.
Yeah.
And the scene is so funny because, for one thing, it's a rattlesnake in a mailbox. That's just funny. But then he has to, like...
He falls back on the...
But there's also a
ground.
neighbor mowing the lawn that can't hear him. And there's also a car coming at him. So it's like he doesn't know whether to, like, run away and try to avoid the snake and get hit by a car. It's so funny that all of a sudden it's like, oh,
which way do I go?
yeah, lawnmower guy, car. It's a weird way to try to build suspense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
And he's jogging shirtless, by the way.
Well, later that day, Rose shows back up.
Yeah.
And this is when they go on their second date, which is sex. Right away.
This is the scene that Maxim magazine, you all remember that Pulitzer Prize winning piece of journalism, and gave this movie the award for greatest sex scene of all time, because for one thing, it's most of the scene takes place underwater.
Yeah.
So this is what your Waterworld fan fiction looks like. You're welcome. You do see
Bruce's Willis.
You see Willis's last Boy Scout from a striking distance. You're welcome.
Briefly, not the whole, not full
Well,
it's not full frontal.
No, but I mean,
It's more than you would expect to see.
Well, I mean, how much does it leave to the imagination? Yeah. Very little, although there's a lot there. And then we cut to a scene of them having dinner together. And the twist, because the camera doesn't show us, is that she's actually serving him naked. And it's not at that restaurant again. They're like, oh, God, these freaks again. No,
it's actually at the house.
It's at the house. Yeah. But then it's pretty comical because, like, the saxophone is just blasting during the sex scene. The orchestra is really cranking it up. Then you have the scene of them having dinner. And then they're in the shower, and the music is like... And he's pressing her naked body up against the glass of the shower. I mean... Again, it's like, how could we not laugh at this?
It was really funny because... It's like, okay, they do it in the pool, and then she's like, yeah, I really want to, like, get dressed up. So you're like, oh, okay, now we're done with the sex part, and now they're going to go to dinner. No. I mean, it's just, like, the sex scene that never ends. And it just like, takes place in, like, all these different locations of the house.
And then, because there's the stupid scene in the shower, and then there's this bit where they're naked in the tub. And he's like, that's later. That's later?
Because then I think they end it in their bed.
Okay.
I think it's like pool, dinner.
I got the remote. Let's watch this right now.
Shower.
So we'll get back to you guys. Just hold on a second. Hold on. Okay, pause.
But I mean, I'm watching this going, we're still going. Okay.
I mean, look, you and I saw 50 Shades of Grey in the theater, and I was snickering, but I mean, this is so much fun.
This is hilarious.
This is like the sex scene from The Naked Gun. It's that funny.
So it says that first, they immediately have sex, first in the swimming pool, and then in Moore's fancy bedroom, and a few more places in the director's cut.
I'll bet. I mean, I wonder, like, was the underwater unit for this movie the same underwater unit they used for, like, Waterworld?
Like the Abyss?
Like, yeah. Like, oh, yeah, we did. Don't worry. We work for James Cameron. We got it. We know what we're doing here.
They're like, we're going to need the oxygen people to be down there. They're like, wow.
The oxygen people are passing out. We didn't think it'd be like this. All we did was look at Ed Harris in a swimsuit. We didn't think it'd be like this movie.
I mean, it really is gratuitous. Like, it's just...
To say the least, yes.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, that's not the only sex scene in this movie.
No. Why stop there? No.
It's just the first one.
Yeah. This movie's just cracking its knuckles.
Yeah. All right, so Bill is still trying to figure out what's going on with Richie.
What's going up with Richie? Oh, well done, Julia. Oh, well done. Slip. Yes.
And he finds out he was treated by a psychiatrist named Dr. Needlemeyer. So this Dr. Needlemeyer,
which, by the way, is a character from Animal House.
Like,
What, this name, Niedermeyer,
comes
again?
back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now we see that Sandra, she is our nymphomaniac, kleptomaniac.
Leslie Ann Warren.
Yeah. Whose husbands mysteriously die.
Right.
She went on a shopping spree with her girlfriend Bonnie. And Bonnie speaks with an English accent and flirts aggressively with Sandra. And it's obviously Rose in a wig. Now, I don't know. But I don't know if the movie is trying...
I think we're not supposed to know that.
Wait, how? It's crazy.
She looks a lot like Jane March, but yeah, I think we're not supposed to know.
I know, but it's a wig and just like more makeup.
Yeah, very washed out facial expression.
It's not a good disguise.
Okay, but no, I do think we're supposed to think they're different people. I think the movie thinks that we're...
The movie thinks we're stupid.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think the movie needs us to be stupid for us to fully appreciate this plot, because when Basic Instinct did this, when it's established that Catherine Trammell, her only friends are people that have been accused of murder.
Yes.
It's eerie. And it's mysterious because you don't see her having sex with anybody except for Michael Douglas.
Right.
So it is kind of these things of like...
you see her with her girlfriend on the dance floor.
There's some
being
gropey.
sexual,
Yeah, but it's like, it's not... Because it's implied, and you're really not sure if Catherine Trammell is just drawn to people who are broken like she is, or if it's a sexual thing, or if it's all those things.
It's all
or
of
none
a
of those
mystery.
things. Right. In this movie, it's just like... No, we're just gonna have the scene
put
where
it out there.
Yeah, we're just gonna have Leslie Ann Warren grope this other actress, and there's no. It feels like a movie that was made by guys who wanted to be lurid, as opposed to something that could be, deep.
Yeah.
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 No, there's no depth.
So during this Sandra Bonnie scene, Bill is going around to all of the group members, and he happens to show up at Sandra's house. He's trying to figure out more about his new clients.
He is a terrible psychologist. You should call first.
Especially
if you know what a bunch of nuts you've got.
I know.
He is just like, it's like going into the cuckoo's nest with a piñata. What are you doing, man? These guys are going to go crazy. He's like stirring up a hornet's nest. He shows up unannounced. Hey, how's it going? Just making sure you're okay. Do anything weird today?
Yeah, I know.
Over and over and over again. And like we said, like he has a really good back and forth with the Lance Henriksen character. But again, like Henriksen is playing it from a real place, which, God bless him, is so out of place in this movie. That he's actually like, it's very internal. It's like there's a lot of depth to his performance. It's like, oh man, save it, buddy. Not for this movie.
No.
No.
So he shows up, Bonnie sneaks out, and then Sandra reveals to Bill that Richie was molested as a child, but becomes says that he can get violent.
Yeah, the movie is constantly trying to do this Hitchcock thing. It's trying to do Vertigo. It's trying to do Marnie. So it has the very uncomfortable talk about not only surviving childhood abuse, sexual and otherwise, but it has these intended Hitchcockian angles that reveal themselves to be nothing more than just style for the sake of style. The thing that kind of drove me crazy is there's a prop in the movie that Willis is constantly playing with. It's this, most movies during this time, they had those little balls, like the the most psychiatrist movies, they've got that as a prop. And here there's this very expensive, gaudy prop of this glass square.
Yeah, that spins.
It spins, and it has these multiple planes within it. So it looks like there's just 20 squares of you. You spin it. The Fisher King used it as well in one moment, and it's meant to illuminate character. In this case, it's like, why does this movie keep going back to it? Oh, because at one point when Bruce Willis is with Jane March, their naked sex scene is projected in it. So it's like the movie's just like, you think the last scene was gratuitous. Well, you've never seen Color of Night.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Bill leaves, and then he goes to Dale's workshop. He's a successful sculptor and furniture designer, and he is Richie's brother.
Yes.
Okay.
Played by Andrew Lowry, who I know from this really bad movie called My Boyfriend's Back. This actor is a very good actor. He had a rough go with Disney.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a good actor, but yeah, this is not a good showcase for him.
So he really wants Richie to be out of therapy, and Bill's like, I don't know, like I'm gonna have to like do some more research. I'm not sure if because it's like court appointed, so he doesn't want to go against the law. But I'm like, you're not even his therapist. You don't even have a license in California.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay, so then Bill goes to Edith Needlemeyer's house, Dr. Needlemeyer's widow.
Yeah, Shirley Knight, good actress. Again, like there's the quality of actor, and then there's the role that just doesn't. Yeah, it's.
He mentions Richie gets a door slammed in his face. Another Monday group rolls around, and Bill asks the group about their current intimate relationships. And so this is now they're all kind of sharing about someone new that they're seeing. And so Sandra talks to the group about Bonnie, who she says she wishes was a guy because she's really into her. Casey mentions a beautiful new model that he's seeing. Buck is talking about this sweet, innocent young woman that he met. And Richie says that he only has his brother. He's not, into anybody. But I was like, oh my gosh, they're all dating Rose.
Yeah, which is a fun twist, and you figured that out right before it happened.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie needs this to happen because if Bruce Willis is a good psychiatrist, it wouldn't be that interesting, right? Mm-hmm. If he went in there, it's like, tell me how you're feeling. What's a positive thing that happened to you? No, he's like, okay, so who you're all boning, and here's some crayons and some paper if you want to draw some pictures, some dirty pictures.
Draw a picture of it. Let me see.
Yeah, like give me some sleazy details. It's okay. I'm just gonna sit here.
Yeah, totally.
He's such a terrible Bill Kappa is awful. But if he was a good psychiatrist, he wouldn't figure out the mystery. So, the fact that he's so terrible.
Yeah. Because, they're all talking about a new person that they're seeing, but it's so obvious. It's Rose.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, was Rose, dating Bob? And then when Bob died, she kind of just I don't know.
You change the music to this film, you can make it a comedy, and this reveal would be really funny.
Yeah.
But no, it's Color of Night, so it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Bill's still checking in on all of his clients individually.
No announcing, just knock. Hey, how's it going? You got anything crazy today? If not, why not? What's going on, man?
If not, why not?
Let's go to In-N-Out Burger. Tell me something sleazy you did last night. I don't know. I don't care.
Okay, so he goes to check in on Clark. Clark is...
Which one's Clark? I'm sorry.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I remember who everybody is.
Okay, Clark is Brad Dourif.
Okay, the obsessive compulsive guy. Uh-huh. Okay. So he's checking in on Clark, and he's telling him more about his perfect new girlfriend, and Bill is like, "Oh, you've been seeing Sandra. I guess or Sandra or whatever." And then he says Sandra is dangerous. Okay, so because we're still trying to solve the mystery of who killed Bob.
Yes.
We still don't know. And he kind of has a freak out.
Yeah.
It's like everybody really goes unhinged in front of Bill at their houses. Bill goes to see the detective at his birthday party. So we have this mariachi Mexican birthday party.
There's no way this scene was in the theatrical cut. This is probably one of the biggest scenes they put back in there because, man, it does nothing for the movie.
Yeah.
It's I can't believe we're just hanging out with Bruce Willis and Ruben Blades. They're having chips and salsa and exchanging dirty quid pro quo.
And somebody they have remember that helicopter that comes by and a woman just drops trout and just moons everybody in a really aggressive, like sexual way, and you're like, what is happening?
Okay, yeah, so like, Basic Instinct had the leg crossing. Well, we're gonna have a helicopter and a naked chick. Okay, so like,
just her butt.
Basic Instinct, man, this is gonna be yesterday's news. Everybody's gonna be talking about Color of Night.
Yeah. Okay, but when Bill gets back to the house, this is when he noticed that somebody may have broken in, and Rose is just like cooking in the kitchen in nothing but like
a smock.
Her. Well, she's in she's, oh my gosh,
apron.
Yeah, apron, she's just in an apron. Okay, and so she's like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "How did you get in here? And how did you know the code?" It's like he's trying to figure out what's going on.
And I like her defense, like, "You don't think I'm sexy? What?" Let me turn around and go, "Ooh."
I know. Because she's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Stop thinking about the fact that I know the code. Like, don't think about that.
Right.
Just, okay, wait. Oh, ooh, here's my butt again." Right?
Yeah.
So he...
And his, to Dr. Kappa's credit, after a while, he's like, "You looked pretty good in that apron."
Yeah. So it says, like, they eat and then they have sex again, of course.
Yeah.
So...
And this is the scene where in the tub together, right?
Oh,
Which feels like an outtake. Willis seems like he's just screwing around in this scene.
Yeah, because they have like a toy like tank or something.
I don't know
like
if they thought.
Kid toy?
Yeah, it's supposed to be maybe a tribute to "Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down," which is a Almodovar film. We're gonna mention a lot of movies in this episode that are better than Color of Night, just so you know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so now Bill has an appointment. Ooh, he actually made an appointment to meet Casey, who's the sadomasochistic artist, at his apartment.
The subtle one, the one we don't worry about that much.
And we do see, like, in a previous scene, like, his art, and it's all real strange.
Yeah.
And it's all of the same woman, and it's just not, S&M stuff.
Yes.
But I was like, ding, ding, ding. I think it's Rose. Like, come on, let's put the pieces together. So he sees that Casey has been strangled to death.
Yeah.
And the only thing about this part of the movie that made me question, like, Rose's involvement in the murder was that you never see who is with him in his loft. Mm. So, because he's obviously, like, being, like, strangled a couple times. Like, you see it 2 different times. The second time he dies. And you never see the person. Whereas with Sandra, you see, like, Bonnie. You know what I mean?
Yes. So
then, I don't know. I was like, all right. I think I'm figuring it out. But I still am not figuring it out. This movie's too wacko.
It's crazy. Every murder scene is nuts.
Yeah. So Bill finds his corpse. He sees half-burnt paintings that look a bit like Bonnie.
Yeah. All
right. So meanwhile, Rose in her Bonnie persona is out for the evening with Sandra, and it's like more sex stuff. They see the neighbors doing it, and then...
And that's the thing, listeners. Like, when we talk about it, a movie that's supposed to be an erotic thriller, it's like, yeah, more sex stuff. The movie isn't working, okay? Because if we, and then people have asked for this, and if you want this, please confirm it, whether it's an email or in the chat. Like, if you, people have said, like, are you guys ever going to talk about Body Heat? Happy to. That's a great film. And when we talk about Body Heat, we're not going to be like, okay, another sex scene. No, because it's a great film. And the sex actually has something to do about the plot and the character. I know it's a weird thing to say, but it does. This is not that movie. This is indeed like, okay.
This is just like sleazy.
It's sleaze on top of sleaze with a slathering of sleaze.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's obvious that, like, Bonnie, like Rose is trying to seduce Sandra, and Sandra's like, hee, like, I don't know.
It's entertaining, but not for the reasons they intended.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, is she gonna, like, try to coerce her into, like, something that she really doesn't want to do? Because even though Sandra's a, quote, nymphomaniac, she's straight,
Yeah, but it's also this thing of, like, the film doesn't even want to deal with any. It just wants to be like,
Just
to go
wild.
It wants to, appeal to the Penthouse magazine audience. It doesn't. It's not trying to be provocative. It's trying to be sleazy. Mm-hmm. There is a difference.
Oh, totally.
So I'm told.
All right. So there's a whole scene with Bonnie and Sandra and Rose as Bonnie and all that. All right. So on another Monday afternoon, Rose appears at Bob's place, and she and Bill are looking at Bob's photo albums, and this is when Bill realizes that Rose is in the photo album.
Yeah.
Because he pretends to go take a shower and notices that she is trying to remove her photos because she was sleeping with Bob.
Yeah.
Wow. This
It's so stupid the way because it's the camera is over Willis's shoulder, and he's spying on her from below, going like, huh? And you see her like looking around frantically and turn the page.
Yeah, and then she leaves in her car, and then there's a car chase.
It's so funny. Yeah,
chase.
Yeah, we got the car chase, which is bananas. This is. Although, wait a second, do we miss the first one where there's that wacky voice that calls him?
Oh yeah, there is a scene with a crazy voice.
There's a crazy voice that never explained, never comes up again, but it's. I'm not going to do an impression of it because it's so bizarro. But yeah, so this is the second car chase, the one with the spectacular...
I think so.
Free fall, yeah. So chasing the car, doesn't know where the car is, and the car goes up into the parking lot.
Actually, no, that's different.
No? This is different? So which one is this?
So
this is
he's just chasing Rose to go after her, but there are a couple scenes in the movie, I'm not quite sure exactly where they are, where this red car goes after Bruce Willis's character.
Yeah. And
they have tinted windows. You don't know who's in there.
Yeah, and at one point it does call Willis, and it's like this fake voice, but it sounds like the Joker. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. And so you're like, okay, who is this person going after him?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's the killer, but which of the crazy people is it?
Because at this point it could be any... There's about 17 characters in this movie that could be the killer.
I don't know about 17. But
I think I'm lowballing it, actually. Maybe 25. I mean,
yeah.
Anybody in this movie who's not Bruce Willis could be the killer.
All right. Well, on one of the Monday sessions, Clark is counting all the books, and he's like, "There's a book missing, or there's a book that's back, and now it was missing." And so they find that it's a diary, and it was Bob's notes about the group.
Yeah.
And there's a naked picture of Rose. And so basically everybody is like, that's my girlfriend.
They just passed the photo and somebody's been sleeping in my bed. You're like, it's... Yeah, I mean, it could... This scene, it could have been a scene out of, Wedding Crashers. It's so... But the movie means to be no, this is a big moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Bill has Rose's license plate from when he chased her, and he gives it to a different detective. He doesn't really trust Martinez.
Gives it to Eric LaSalle. Yeah. Another great actor who should not be in this movie, Eric LaSalle. And he's played, LaSalle has played cops before. He's a cop in 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams, and he's terrific in that. I know most of you know Eric LaSalle from Coming to America. He's actually a really great actor, but man, he is too good for this movie. He really is.
Okay, well, it's after this scene that the red car pushes another car over the parking structure to land on Bruce Willis, but it doesn't hit him.
It doesn't make any freaking sense how this happens.
I know.
It's one thing for the killer to be outside in broad daylight looking, because this is 4 stories up?
Yes, at least.
Yeah. And, this guy, I mean, he just bangs the car over the edge 4 stories up to land on Bruce.
How does he know where Bill even is?
I mean, the Roadrunner was never this clever with the coyote, really.
Yeah. Okay. So Bill is consulting with his friend Larry. All of a sudden, it's that guy, remember, who's in a hot tub?
Oh, that's right.
He goes to like a gym and he's like, Larry, I need to talk to you about all these crazy people that I'm dealing with.
Larry looks like the dude who at the end of every episode of Scooby-Doo, they pull off the mask and I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you snooping kids. Like that's what Larry looks like. And it's so strange. This movie has too many characters is what it has. It's one of the problems.
Yeah, because it's like, who's Larry? He's in like one scene and then he's out of the movie. And then he goes to see Mrs. Needlemeyer again.
Yeah.
And she reluctantly tells Bill that Richie Dexter killed himself 4 years ago.
And you figured this out pretty quickly.
Because her husband molested him.
And this is when the light bulb went off for you. Like, oh.
And I was like, oh, Rose is pretending to be Richie. And she's in this group every day with all these crazies because she's also a little bit crazy. And she's also like sleeping with everybody.
But don't you think that Leslie Ann Warren knows about the ruse because she's having an affair with her under another persona?
I don't think she knows.
I think she does. I think Leslie Ann Warren is maybe the only one who knows because she has that.
Oh, because she talks about Richie in a different way?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the movie's clear about that, but I do think Leslie Ann Warren is the only one who knows what's up.
Yeah. So now Bill finally is putting the pieces together.
He's not very... I mean, neither are we as the audience, but like... For a guy who's a psychologist, he's very slow.
But to be fair, this plot is super muddled.
It's so nutty.
Like I'm like, who thought of this crazy...
Yeah, it's like...
characters.
Like, what was that Nip Tuck? It's like a season of Nip Tuck squeezed into...
Oh, totally. That movie. That show, I had to stop watching it. It was so strange.
Yeah, I mean, I dug how audacious that show is, and I love the two leads in that show. But, I mean, just, like, reading the plot synopsis, like, this is the most sordid crap. Yeah. And they even squeezed in a serial killer subplot. It's like, this is like, if people who thought that ER was boring, that's what Nip Tuck is. But that's what this movie is, too. It's like, for people who think Basic Instinct is just like your grandmother's movie.
Yeah. All right. So we're getting to the end. And so Bill goes to Dale's workshop where he finds Richie sitting in a chair, bloodied and agitated. And he takes off Richie's wig and glasses. And oh no, it's Rose.
Yeah.
So she explains that after Richie's suicide, her brother Dale forced her to dress and act like Richie. And if she resisted, he would beat and molest her, which I'm like, this is so sick.
Yeah.
And after Richie developed a bad drug problem that got him busted, she, as he, had to go to therapy. And then she started to feel she wanted to be a girl again. So now she's like pretending to be Bonnie too. And then she fell in love with Bill, and Bill's the one who like made her like see that she wants to have a real life again or something.
And Bill, to his credit, as a terrible psychologist, like, that sounds great.
He's like, yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
He does not put up a fight, listeners.
He really doesn't.
It's so, like, this is where you walk out like, this is not my problem. I'm not even from here. This is Scott Bakula's problem.
This is where he's like, you need to see somebody else. That's not me. This is a conflict of interest.
This is 1994. I don't even understand half of this stuff. Goodbye. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, he's just like, okay, man, sounds good.
Yeah.
Let me untie you and we'll run off together. Make babies. Sounds good.
Yeah, but like, oh shoot. You're like nailed to this chair, like literally nailed. I better like try and free you.
It's insane. Yeah, the movie all of a sudden like, so that's right. I forgot how gory this movie is.
Yeah, like her brother has this nail gun and like had like nailed her. It's really sick, you guys. It's really.
Do you remember that scene in Lethal Weapon 2? Again, they're like, Lethal Weapon 2, like you only see the nail pierce the skin once. We're gonna school Lethal Weapon 2.
We're going all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then Dale shows up and he's just like going crazy. Then the detective Martinez shows up and we have like a nail gun shootout.
A nail gun shootout. And I gotta say, like, again, Ruben Blades, again, I love this actor. I do. But like, he's playing it so big. I thought, is he a part of it? Because like, when he first enters the scene, like his performance is so big and demonstrative. I thought like, is it a team? Is it like the end of Scream where it's actually two people instead of one? No, it's just that the character is so huge and the actor is making such big choices. It's just like everybody is a scene stealer in this movie, except for Bruce Willis, the star.
So there's a bunch of like backstory about like Needlemeyer and like all the crazy sick stuff that happened to Richie, and it's like.
But then it ultimately comes down to a nail gun fight and a chase.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they like go up this tower in the pouring rain.
Why? Because it's the ending of Final Analysis, and by the way, it's full circle. We come back to Dr. Kappa's mighty erection.
But okay, so Dale is shot with the nail gun.
Yes.
So the reason Rose goes up to the top is she wants to kill herself too.
Right.
And she tries to with the nail gun, but it ran out of nails. So Bill catches her as
Bummer,
she's
babe.
like,
I hate when we run out of cartridges.
Yeah, but I mean, she basically is gonna jump.
Right.
Like the first gal in like Michelle from the beginning of the movie. But
Will's like, oh no, not again.
He catches her and puts her back on the platform, and then they start making out.
And if you really watch it very closely, Bruce Willis's stuntman catches her as she jumps off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then to bring it full circle, you guys, there's a red beacon flashing in the background, and suddenly Bill can see the color red.
And why is this the moment?
I'm like, he didn't do anything.
Nothing.
I mean, he like barely figured out this mystery.
If anything, the fact that she revealed her secret, her brother is dead, she climbs to the top of this thing, she wants to commit suicide. If anything, she should have the same affliction that he does. They should both be seeing in the color of night. But now he's like, hey babe, you look pretty good at Technicolor. Okay.
He's like, yeah, she should lose her color, her vision. And then they're like, oh, we're both seeing like 50 Shades of Grey.
And seriously, folks, like this film, it should have, once they established this, the film should have been black and white. You would have, like the film noir angle would have made more sense. It would have been like, okay, this whole thing is a tribute to the kind of sleazy 1940s, oversexed, but, relatively subtle movies, comparatively subtle movies compared to this. But because it's in color and because this stupid, if anything, it feels almost like the movie forgot about this twist and they're like, they got to throw it in at the last minute when it does. It's like, okay, it's a whatever. If an alien mothership had lowered down and beamed them both up, it's be like, well, why not? It's the only thing in Color of Night that didn't happen.
I know. Well, okay, so in the final shot, Bill and Rose are kissing on the platform and the rain is coming down. And I'm sure, like, Bill's just like, I can finally see red again. Like, that's all he probably cares about. And then
I'm a terrible psychologist. My practice is gone. I wasted months with these psychos.
Yeah.
I'm a joke, but hey, I can see red.
And then you hear the detective downstairs going, get me out of here. And that's it.
It's crazy. It's like a sitcom joke. Dun, 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 dun. And then the title song plays, which I believe is a Golden Globe nominated title song. I don't know why.
Oh my gosh.
It's not great. I did hear that on the radio, though. That was insane. When the movie came out, I'd be like, hey, this is the new song from the new Bruce Willis movie. They actually tried to push it for a couple weeks. I used to hear it a lot.
Wow.
And then I think after a while, like, this is embarrassing. We got some Mariah Carey we could be playing right now.
So that's Color of Night. It's the most bonkers film I think I've ever seen. I don't recommend it.
An erotic thriller that doesn't know that it's actually a comedy. Doesn't know that it's like a parody of these movies. Mm-hmm. It's a self-parody. It's ridiculous on top of ridiculous. Willis, to his credit, doesn't go...
It's ridiculous with like so many gratuitous, like unnecessary things that it really shocks you.
Yeah, like I didn't show it when I taught this class on film noir and erotic thrillers. This is the booklet, by the way, that I used. It's a great book, by the way. It's excellent. It's very definitive. I didn't show the movie because, for one thing, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. And the other thing was that I decided to show something because I wanted to show a bad movie. Whenever I show a class about a certain genre, I like to throw in a bad film on purpose just to look like this is the opposite way because I show a lot of good movies.
Yeah.
So what I did for this class, I showed The Temp, instead, and they were like, oh yeah,
The Cookie Caper.
Yeah, this is not a great noir.
We also talked about that.
Fun movie, stupid fun movie. But anyway, yeah, I didn't want to show them Color of Night because, like, I mean, it's Color of Night is so insufferably bad.
It really is.
I was shocked by it the first time I saw it. I really felt like, wow, this movie is just going out of its way to be really kind of filthy and sleazy. Looking at it now, I mean, I think it's one of the funniest movies I've seen this year. And for some of you, that's going to sound like a hearty recommendation. For the rest of you, it sounds like a warning. But yeah, this is a 1-star movie.
Yeah.
Willis, I love Bruce Willis. I love that he went from this to Pulp Fiction and Nobody's Fool and Die Hard 3 and my favorite 12 Monkeys. So Willis, has a film career that is extraordinary for not only the great movies he picked, but the bad movies he was able to leapfrog over.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is a terrible film.
I feel like this is a half star for me.
Half a star.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it tries to take these like really serious issues and like jam it into this narrative that it makes no sense and is so bonkers. And none of these people, like none of the characters, like they're all parodies.
Yes, the movie didn't have the maturity to deal with this provocative material then, and now it's just like this is just offensive.
And I didn't even talk about the guy whose like wife and daughter were murdered and how the wife was actually having an affair with the detective on the case. I mean, that was like a whole other subplot to this film that like, what?
We saw the 2-hour 20 minutes uncut director's cut, but then apparently the international version has even more. So it's like I wonder, like, is there like a 3-hour cut of this thing? And is it even slightly better?
Spare yourself.
Because like the version we saw, like, I mean, it's so entertaining for me. It kind of flew by, but I mean, it's a long film. This movie should not be 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's watchable.
Okay, would you change? Like, what would you change?
I would change the music and make it.
You'd make it a comedy?
Yeah, I would say this is because at this point we were 2 Naked Gun movies in. I'd say like this is Naked Gun 3.
Oh. I mean, would they have to change much except for the music?
Just the music. And the music is mostly there. It's so ridiculous, because look, it's not only is it the 90s, but it's also, again, it's sexy film noir. So it's already got the saxophone going on, and it's gratuitous if you got a saxophone.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
Honestly, if somebody recut it with funny music
I think at this point, you don't even need to make the music funny. You just need to make it slightly more dramatic to make it even sillier.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's
a terrible film. I don't know if it's Bruce Willis's worst film.
Really? He's done worse?
I think the sequel to The Whole 9 Yards is called The Whole 10 Yards. That one I think is pretty insufferable. I mean, there's nothing more agonizing than a comedy that thinks it's funny and it isn't. Because that's a sequel to a good movie. The Whole 10 Yards.
But this movie thinks it's serious and it's funny.
Yeah.
You think that's preferable?
Oh, yeah. I would rather watch, like the...
Unintentional
The
comedy?
Troll 2 equivalent of a erotic thriller than a movie that thinks it's funny and it just isn't. No, this movie is hysterical. It's entertaining for reasons that are accidental. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any other final thoughts?
As I said earlier, let me explain. This is a Disney film because it's Hollywood Pictures, just like Touchstone. Anything Touchstone Pictures is a Disney film. I love that there's been all these reports like Deadpool and Wolverine. It's an R-rated Disney film, an R-rated Marvel film. Disney's been making R-rated movies for years, and if you don't believe me, wait till you see this one.
All right. Well, I hope you'll leave us a comment if you actually have seen this movie or if you decide to watch it. Don't watch it because of us, because just warning you, it's so bad. But
or watch it because of us and let me know what you think. If it lived up to your so bad it's good. This is a so bad it's good movie. It is. Or not. I'll go. That's my angle.
That's his angle. All right. Yeah.
And Julie is telling you life is short. Don't watch Color of Night.
Yeah, there you go.
And if you are seeing the color gray when you should be seeing the color red, obviously then, consult a doctor.
But don't see a psychoanalyst like Bruce Willis.
Yeah, if you are in a room where everyone around you is acting like a very demonstrative character actor, maybe join a different group.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening. We hope that you will like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and share with your friends. And that concludes our discussion of Color of Night.
Good night, everyone.